In this video, we want to look at how to set up and use payables and receivables for Oracle Fusion ERP Cloud in less than 1 hour. Yes, in less than 1 hour. So let's have a look at some of the various components of what we intend to set up over the next hour or so. So first, we're going to look at the reference data sets that we're going to set up. We're going to then look at the business functions, the business unit set assignment. We're also going to look at the setting up of the procurement agent and then the payment terms. And then we'll look at the common options for procurement and payables. And then we'll look at the invoice options for payables. We'll move swiftly to the payment options and then look at the accounting setup within the various common options, invoice options, and the payment options. We'll then create a bank account and then move swiftly to look at the receivable activities, the AutoAccounting Rules, Remit to address, and then the receipt methods. As part of the use, we'll set up the users and look at the user roles and membership, and then we'll look at the role assignments, and then we'll create a supplier, create a customer, and then we open the periods in readiness for creating transactions. In creating transactions, we create a supplier invoice, we create a supplier payment to the supplier, and then we create the customer invoice, the sales invoice, and then we'll review the aged customer debts, and then we'll create a customer receipt. We'll create the accounting and review the accounting, and then review the GL journals, and then run a trial balance. So that's a lot to do within the next hour, so let's get started. So let's have a look at the setup. So we just want to review the setups that have been created by our rapid implementation. So if you go to the setup user link at the top of the page, that's your username, and click on setup and maintenance. And from the setup screen, I'm going to select financials. And I want to review some of the core setups that have been done. We've looked at some of the general ledger ones, so let's look at some of the sub ledgers. But before that, we want to create our reference data set. So I'm going to select Enterprise Profile, click on All Task, and Manage Reference Data Set. So if I search, you can see all the ones that already exist. So I'm going to add one. I'm going to call it Acme Set, and I'm going to call it the set name. I'm going to call it Acme Set. So let's just save and close. So that's my reference data set that I'll be using for my customer site. So that's where I'll be using that. Legal structures, we've looked at that. We've looked at some of the financial reporting structures as well within our chart of accounts. We've looked at some of the general ledger ones as well. And for the organization structure, so let's have a look at the business unit function. The business unit function. So we can see that for our Acme ledger, which is as the default legal entity of Acme Cupertino Sherry's, you've got all these different modules that is going to act as a business unit function for. So that's where the business unit function has been assigned automatically by our setup. And then let's have a quick look at the business unit set assignment. So with the set assignment, we're going to look at the customer site, customer account site, and I'm going to change that to my Acme set that I've just created. So that's going to be the set I'm going to use for my business unit set assignment. Save and close. So you can have a look at some of the other ones. And then I'm going to go very quickly to suppliers. So actually, I won't create suppliers from here. This is just for the B2B integration and looking at some of the additional supplier setups required for supplier portal. So let's have a look at payables. Procurement agent. So we're going to create a procurement agent. Let's create our user as a procurement agent. So our BU will be my Acme US Business Unit 1, and my agent will be my user, my setup user. That's my setup user. I can specify a default requisition in BU, so I'm going to use that. And access to all other agents documents, I'm going to require full access all the way, because I'm like that, just want full access. So there you go. So that includes the supplier, so you cannot actually manage suppliers if you haven't got the procurement agent, and the same for some of the procurement functionality. So let's save and close. So that's my procurement agent setup. Payment terms. So payment terms, we're going to be using common, but there's quite a few payment terms already in the system. And if we look at immediate, for example, this will be assigned to our set. So the set assignment will be all these other ones that we have here. So it's cancel. Let's come out of this as well. And then I have common options for payables and procurement for my Acme US Business Unit 1. Again, all of these have been set up automatically by our rapid implementation spreadsheet. I was mentioning some of the liability accounts for payables, and this is where it's been used. So if I just demonstrate that to you, so this is my spreadsheet. So if I go to my natural accounts and I want to look at, let me just select financial category, accounts payable. So you can see the accounts payable employee liability account. So that's the 21010 being used for my payables liability account. And so are some of the other ones as well. All of these have been created automatically by the system for us. So if I look at the exchange rates, 5 to 149, for example. So let me just take this off and go to my child account, 5 to 149. Search for 5 to 149. 5 to 149. So you can see that this is the exchange rate variance loss. So that's cost of goods sold, and we can see additional description there. So that's how all the accounts have been created. So one-time payments liability, you can also add the bits that you want in there as well. So that's my common options for payables and procurement. So let's come out of this. And then we have the invoice options. So these are the default invoice options for my Acme US Business 1 business unit. So for quantity tolerance, I'm going to select percentage and amount as well, amount tolerances. So you can also have a quick look and you can modify as you require. For example, you may want to select a pay group for your invoices automatically. So I'm going to save and close. And then the payment options as well. These ones have already been set up automatically by the rapid implementation spreadsheet. So that's for my payables. Payments, again, quite a few of the defaults already done. Payment methods, disbursement, payment options. This is not BU specific, but then you have, you can always go back and check to view them. Cash management and banking. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a bank account for my BU. So the bank account, let me just add a bank so that when we make payments, we can actually just make it directly into this bank account. So there's some banks already pre-installed for us. I'm just going to search for Bank of America. So bank name is Bank of America. And I'm going to select New York. Account name will be, let's use Acme US. account number, so just make up my account number, currency US dollars, and then my legal entity will be my Acme Cupertino shares. Account type, so I've got options, make it checking, savings, and I've got options for description as well. So you can see that the moment I selected Acme Cupertino shares, is automatically entered the account numbers for me. So that again, that's based on my default setups. I've got options to enter controls, security, and also business unit access. So I'm going to add my business unit, which is based on my legal entity. So my business unit is my Acme US business unit 1. Click on OK. And that's my bank setup. Of course, I need to specify if I want to use it for payables, payroll, and receivables. So I'm going to just select payables and receivable. I can make it a multi-currency account if I wanted to, so I can pay other currencies from this bank account as well. So let's save and close. Again, you can always go back and do a quick check on that. So that's my payables. Of course, there are other setups done automatically: tax, expenses, fixed assets, receivables. So let's have a look at some of the receivables setup. So my receivables activities, select my business unit, Acme US business unit 1, and then let's search. Again, you can see for each of my receivable activities, like my end discount, on end discount, you've got account business unit values already selected for them. Let's have a look. Let's look at all tasks. So I've got other ones like AutoAccounting Rules, profile options, distribution sets if you want to use them. And you can see there's various setups that you can, even your SLA setups are all in here. So you can always go back and check and review a lot of these distribution sets. For example, for my BU, I can actually create a distribution set here, but okay, so that's my core receivables options. Customer billing. So let's have a look at the key things. AutoAccounting Rules. So let's have a look at our AutoAccounting Rules that have been auto-generated for our BU. Let's just search. Again, you can see, those of you who are familiar with EBs, this is exactly the same functionality that you have. You can see, so for tax account, this is the account that will be generated. Auto invoice clearing, unbilled revenue. Again, all of this coming in from the spreadsheet. I've also got my Remit to addresses, again required when creating the billing. So Remit to addresses, so you can see United States, from and to postal code, all created for us. So that's basically your setup, all done for you. So what I'm going to do now is add a few roles to my user. I'm going to create the roles. I'm going to create suppliers and customers, and then we're going to enter some transactions. So first, let's enter the roles. So I'm going to go back to my tools, and I'm going to select security console, and I'm going to search for my user called setup user, and let's edit the user. So click on edit, and then you want to add the roles. So the first row, set of rows I'm going to add is for my payables. So accounts payable manager, and I want to select ORA AP manager. And I also want to enter a role for my AP supervisor. Again, my ORA. And I want to enter one for AP specialist. So ORA, AP specialists. And then I want to add one for my suppliers, supplier manager. So I'm going to create one called supplier manager. Actually, I need the supplier administrator. Let's get one for supplier administrator. This allows us to create suppliers and also manage our suppliers. So that's my supplier roles. So let's create one for receivables. So I'm going to create one for accounts receivable manager. Accounts receivable manager. Another one for accounts receivable specialist. There we go. Another one for receivable specialist. Let's create some for billing manager. Let's do some for billing manager. Billing manager. AR billing manager. So I'm going to add AR billing manager as well. And then the billing specialist. Billing specialist as well. And then let's do some for the collections. Let's do one for collections agent. Collections agent. Normally you would have different roles by user. So I'm just going to use my setup user as some, kind of like a super user. Collections manager. So let's set one up for collections manager. And then I'm going to create some for HR type roles. Let's do some for financial application administrator and procurement application administrator. So let's do financial application administrator. Just get it, go for the ORA one. And then we want to look at the procurement. Procurement application administrator, ORA. So that's quite a few roles that we have there. Now we need to assign the roles. We need to assign BU access to all the roles. So let's click on done. And I'm going to save and close. I'm going to go now into my roles assignment. It's done. And I'm going to do that from my setup and maintenance. Let's go to search, manage data access. Manage data access for users. So let's enter my username setup.user. Let's do a search. Just 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to authorize data access using the spreadsheet. So we'll enter our username and password, setup.user, and then the password that we use to enter the application. And that will populate all the data that we need to enter. So at the moment, we want to enter this for the business unit context. So I'm just going to double click and select my Acme business unit 1. So let's just do a search for Acme. So you got Acme US business unit 1. So click on OK. And we can just copy and paste the data all the way down. And I'm just going to upload. So rows updated successfully. So I'm going to go back to the application, and then if I do a search, users, so there's none. So if I want to find users with data, setup user, you can search, and you can see all of my data here with my business unit access to all of my roles. So I'm going to click on done. So that's my business unit access applied. So what I'm going to do now is modify an existing supplier. I'm just going to add a site to my supplier. So let me just go home, and I'm going to go to my procurement. I'm going to go to procurement, and I'm going to select suppliers. So the supplier that I want to modify or add a site to is called Lee Supplies. That's it, Lee Supplies, and just press enter. So that's my suppliers. So let's go to sites, and I want to add a new site. So at the moment I can't see any sites. If I go to addresses, I can see various addresses. So let me select the address name that I want to create the site for, just for us to see. So that's my address. So I can create my site from here as well. So that's my site. I'm going to make this the primary pay site, Acme US Business Unit 1. And let me just save and close. Changes saved. So let's go to sites. There's my site created. So let's go further into it, and then we can just make a few more changes to the site. So now you can see that it's purchasing pay, and it's also the primary pay site. So a few things, I can add some options, general options. I can add purchasing options as well. Communication method, if I require acknowledgement and so on. Receiving, I can also enter my receiving options. Invoicing, I can put in a default invoice currency, match level, quantity tolerances. This can be at a site level, and also we saw that it's also in one of the options. I think it was invoice options earlier on. You can also specify the default payment terms. So I'm going to select immediate for my site level, or you can take options from your payment options. Let's use this as invoice date as my date basis, and let's take it as undue. So if I wanted to, I could put in a default pay group, payment currency, payment priority, invoice match options. So if I'm matching to a PO, match level 3-way match. Specify limits for my invoice, specify invoice currency and payment currency. Payments, so let's have a look at payments. And specify my default payment. So if I wanted to specify what the default payment type is, payment method. So I'm going to specify electronic, but I'm going to also specify a bank account as well. So let me just add bank account. So to pay my supplier, I can then specify a bank account. United States. I can put in my the account number, the bank name, Bank of America. Specify branch. Let's say specify Redwood City. Update unpaid invoices. Yeah. Allow international payments. If it's got an IBAN, you can put an IBAN in. You can put a currency in as well. And also things like your account name. All this can also be entered as well. Again, all this depends on your options. Click on OK. So that's my bank created for my supplier. Again, if I've got additional attributes to send to the bank, things like my delivery options, remittance advice, if you want it by email, printed, you've got all the different options as well. Got site assignment. So let's just create my site assignment. So I'm going to select my Acme BU for my site assignment, my client bill to, and I can also enter bill to ship to location for tax purposes, and also put in liability distribution and any of these as well if I need to. So I'm going to save and close. So I've created supplier site, and in the same way I'm going to modify an existing customer site, add my own site to it, and then we're going to create some transactions after this. So now let's create the site for our customer. I'm going to go to receivables, accounts receivable, and I'm going to go to manage customers. The customer we want to have a look at is computer service and rentals. So I'm going to type in the organization name, computer service, and enter. So computer service and rentals, the first one that we got there, and I'm going to add my site. So the address set that we're going to use is Acme set. From date, I'm going to put it a date in the past because we can also use this for collections. So the address line for my site, address line 11 Acacia Woods, and the postcode is 94040. There is actually automatic address code postcode validation, so I'm going to select Mountain View, and that will automatically complete the rest for me. So I've got other things like the site language, account address details, and so on. So address purpose is the next thing I want to enter. I want to enter the purpose from the 1st of the 1st, and I want to make this a bill to address. I'm going to add another one, again from the 1st of the 1st. Purpose is a ship to, and the ship to site requires a bill to, so that's the link between the two. Once I've done that, I'm going to save and close. So that's my site. So let's scroll down and have a look at my site. That's my site, Acme set. So you can see a few things concerning my site. That's the details. And if I go to payment details, you'll be able to see a bit more information. I can put in a receipt method. So there's some receipt methods in the system. I can say EFT automatic receipt, for example, and I can make this a primary one. Other things that I can add is payment instruments if you want to pay by credit cards or bank accounts, so that's possible. And also I can enter my payment notifications as well. Got communications, so I can add details for my contacts, and then also I can create a site profile. So I can have a default collector and then put different profiles for my, so that's, and I can even have things like credit limits, late charges. So these are things that I can actually put in. So these are default limits that are set up automatically based upon the default profile that I've used. I can, if I want to, change the profile class to, let's say, default, and that would change everything that I have here. So moderate risk, and then you've got different things. So, and again, the credit limits and late charges will change based upon what I've entered. And let me just save and close. So that's my default class. So again, I can enter things like my tax profiles and so on. So my site details, see my site details, site use. I can also enter reference accounts based upon my site. So if I add the reference account, I can specify that for a specific BU, then the accounts will be different. So different revenue and so on based upon the site. So let's just use this one. These are the defaults. So save and close. So now we've created our supplier, we've created our bank account, created our customer. So now we're going to enter some transactions. But before we enter transactions, let's just click on home. Before we enter transactions, we're going to open the periods. So I'm going to go to General Accounting, Period Close. So now you can see that Payables is never open, nor is Receivables. So I'm going to select Receivables, and we'll be asked to open the first period. So I'm going to open Jan 17 as the first period and click on yes. So that will submit the program for opening the period for receivables. So let's do the same for payables. So payables, again, the first period is Jan 17. So let's click on OK. Yep. And that will start up the process. So let's go to done. And I'm going to go to receivables. And I want to open a target period. Open target period. And I want the target period to be December 18. So that will open all the periods up to December 18. So let's go and do the same for payables. Actions, open target period, December 18. And let's do that for payables and receivables. So you can see that receivables is now open. So let's go to the details so we can see December periods, all the periods are all open. Yeah. So done. And payables as well, all open. Click on done. So now we can start to create transactions. So what I'm going to do is create an invoice in payables. So I'm going to select payables, invoices, and then I'm going to create a manual invoice, create invoice. So it's defaulted to my Acme US business unit, and I'm going to select Lee Supplies, and I should have my site and my entity, legal entity, defaulted in as well. There we go. So my invoice number, INV-1, amount is US dollars 1,000, and I'm going to put in 1,000 US dollars, and I'm going to enter distribution. So company is my 3251, line of business none, and then my account, want this to be my miscellaneous transactions. So let me just do a search for MISC or miscellaneous expenses. So miscellaneous expenses, cost center, let's make it R&D US, product, none, and then intercompany 3251. You could, if you wanted to, just enter the numbers without actually typing it in. So you could have actually just entered the number. So next I'm going to just have a look at installments. Remember, we set the payment method to electronic. There we go. So you can see electronic and then the bank account. Okay, so that's just to show you the details. So it's not validated, so I'm going to go to Actions, Validate. So it's now validated, and let's save it. So I can actually post this to Ledger. So that's just my accounting transaction. Debit the expense, credit the AP liability account. So let's view the accounting. So that's my debit my expense, credit my AP liability. You're probably wondering, where did it get this AP liability from? It's actually from the default that we set in the spreadsheet, and also you can see it from the header as well. This is my AP 21010 is the AP liability account. If I wanted to, I could pay in full from here. Just pay in full. So that's going to be paid from my Acme US account, and let's select my MT 103 and clicking on submit. So that payment's been made for 827 save and close. So we need to also create accounting for the payment. We can also search for the payment if we go to manage payments. So actually, let me just bring this down. So that's my payments. We could have paid it by running a payment process request from here. So let me go to my manage payments, and what I'm going to do is just search for payments made today. Search, and that's my payment. That's my payment, and I can from here also post to Ledger. Voided view the accounting. So let's post to Ledger. View the accounting. So that's the debit to the liability and credit to my cash clearing. And once we reconcile it in the bank, then it would debit my cash clearing and credit cash. You can also view the output file, the XML or the output format that goes to the bank. And in this case, it will be an eText file. So to do that, let me just click on home. Okay, let me just go to actually scheduled processes. Okay, click on more, scheduled process. So that's my payment file that was sent, that was created when I made the payment. So let's have a look at the output. So that's my text output file. So that's my output file that's gone to the bank. You can see the details of the payment. That's my MT103 output format. So that's basically creating a payment, creating an invoice to supplier and making the payment. So let's go to receivables and create an invoice. So I'm going to go to billing, and I'm going to create my transaction. Create transaction. You can see that the details have been entered for us. I'm going to make this an old transaction to say it's to make it look as if it's really overdue. And then see what we can get from collections. 22 transaction date. I've got other things like invoicing rules, salesperson that can be attached. So my build to name is my computer service. That's my customer, and that will automatically find my build to site and also my ship to name. Payment terms is 30 days net, so it was actually due on the 4th of March. So I'm going to use the memo line. So let's select a memo line. This is for, let's say, for 1 year support agreement, and that will automatically enter some details for me. 20,000, and I've got one of these. So let's save the transaction. So you can see that transaction lines 20,000. So go to actions, let's go to distributions. Yeah, save the transaction. So that's the distribution. So it will be your receivable and your revenue. These are the accounts that will be automatically generated. So it'll be debit to your revenue and credit to your, debit to your receivable and credit to your revenue account. So I'm going to click on create complete. So let's do complete and review. And we can also view the invoice. So let's view the image. So this is a sample invoice that's generated. So you can also change the logo and the layout of this invoice as well. This goes out to the customer for $20,000. So save and close. So now I can actually receive the funds as well. So this is my transaction. So if I actually go to my accounts receivable, so let's review the balances for the account. So let's go to review customer accounts, and I'm going to put in customer starts with computer, and let's search. So that's the customer account. So let's look at a very quick overview. It's coming up with nothing, no transactions in dispute and so on. So let's go to the activities, and I'm going to enter dates between the 1st of the 1st and do a search. So that's now telling me that this is a transaction. The past due amount is 20,000, and you can from here start to view balance details, dispute it, and so on. So this is the original amount, no receipts, no credits, no adjustments, no discounts, nothing, hasn't paid at all, and is overdue. So I'm going to go to the transaction, just have a look at the transaction. So that's the transaction, is complete. There's no payments been made, and it's for 1 year support. We can see all the details. So actions, you can view image, view balance detail, view installment. So let's click on done. Before we can actually receive the funds, we need to create a receipt method. We need to assign our BU to a receipt method. So I'm going to go to setup maintenance, and I'm going to go to financials, scroll to customer payments and receipt classes and methods. So we're going to search for the manual method. So that is the manual, no remittance, directly, and creation method is manual. I'm going to create one. I'm going to call it Acme manual. printed name, Acme manual, and let's start from the 1st of the 1st, 17, no end date, and the remittance bank accounts. So business unit will be my Acme business unit 1. Bank is my Bank of America and my bank. So I'm going to use all the different defaults. So start from the 1st of the 1st, 17, and on end discount and end discount will be using those default accounts. So let's save and close. Save and close. Done. And then I'm going to now create a receipt. So receivables, accounts receivable, let's create a receipt. Create receipt. Receipt method. So I can see my Acme manual. Receipt number 100001. Enter the amount. Let's get some money. Let's get $10,000. So Bank of America, today's the receipt date. And then I'm going to put in the customer name, computer, search. So that's the computer service and rentals. And then the site will be my Acacia Woods. That's all the details. And then I can look for my open receivables. Let's see what is outstanding for my supplier. So let's search. Transaction customer name. See by the name of the. So let's add. So that's the invoice, transaction number 20763. Click on add and done. So that's the details, match by reference number. So let's submit and apply manually. We want to match the amount to the outstanding invoice. So there we go. So receipt details, entered amount, accounted amount. So we got unapplied amount. So let's go to my add application. So I can search for the transaction 20. Let's say. So let's click on OK. So I'm going to match it to this. So I'm applying 1000, application date, accounting date, and actions. Let's save this. So I'm going to, so now it's going to say that's the total applied. So there's no unapplied amount anymore. So there we go. So 10,000 is applied to what's owed. So I'm going to go to actions and I can actually post this to Ledger. And let's view the accounting. So you can now see that receipt is created, your debit to cash, and your credit to receivable. I click on done, save and close. So that's the receipt applied. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to run create accounting in different disguise. So I'm actually going to do that from the scheduled process. So let's go to my scheduled processes, select more, and then scheduled processes. So let's schedule a new process. Just run create accounting for all the subledgers, see if anything else is remaining. Actually, I'm just going to type create accounting. So that's my create accounting. So this is for the subledger accounting transactions. So my subledger application, so let's do it for payables, in case there's anything else left for payables. Acme ledger, transfer to GL, post in GL, and I'm just going to put in my journal batch YO at the end. Anything else coming through from for payables. So that's going to be all. So everything that we want to transfer. Submit. Click on OK. So that's everything for payables. So I'm going to do another one for receivables, just in case there's anything there for receivables. For receivables ledger, again my Acme ledger, taking everything across and submit. Click on OK. So let's refresh. Still running. Let's see where we are. Completed. And then we've got some of the other ones running as well. Some of the sub processes running. There we go. Do the posting now for the ledgers. Into the ledgers. A bit more to do. So all done. So let's go to General Ledger and view the transactions in GL. And then we can run a trial balance for August. So I'm going to go to my journals. And I'm going to manage journals. Click on manage journals. And I want to have a look at my transactions, my journals that have been created in August. Let's do a search. So I should have, right, so I've got the spreadsheet one, and I've got the initial one for my payments, my invoices. This is my initial invoices that I created. Got for my invoices in General Ledger. So debit my expense, credit my liability. So that's the initial one. So let's go to the next one, which is my payments. Again, for my payments, I've got debiting my my liability account, and crediting my cash clearing. So that's my AP liability, and this is my cash clearing. My cash clearing account. There we go. That's my cash clearing. So let's now look at the receivables transactions. So let's have a look at receivables. So I have debit to my cash and credit to my receivable. You're probably wondering what happened to the invoice one that we created. Now we changed the accounting date to February. I think we changed it to February. So we're going to look at the February invoice. So revenue came in February. So let's have a look at February. Accounting period equals, just type in February February 18. So again, we should have two journals. So there we go. So that's the sales invoice for 20,000, which happened in February. So let's scroll down. We can see the debits going to my revenue, accounts receivable account. Sorry, receivables, and then my credit going to my revenue account. There we go. White wine revenue. So there we go. So we can see the full end-to-end for our transaction. So what I can do is actually run a trial balance. So let's go to my monitor processes, schedule a new process. I'm going to run a trial balance. Trial balance, let's search. Trial balance report. And let's do one for August. So accounting period, I'm going to change that to August 18. Total, and I can select my balance and segment. It's going to be my Acme company is my balance and segment, and it's 3251. So equals 3251. So Acme company 3251. I'm going to click on OK. So that's my summarized by natural account. So I could say by other areas as well. Period to date, balance type, currency type total, balance type actual, and I'm going to submit. Click on OK. And let's have a look at our trial balance. Let's refresh. So that's my trial balance report completed. So let me have a look at the output, which should be a PDF file. So let's have a look at my PDF output. So export to PDF. I can actually export it to Excel. Let's do export to Excel. And that's downloaded my trial balance. So this is my trial balance report. And you can see the details of my trial balance. And my total debits equal credits. My balance is nil. And that's all my transactions. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.